Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's meeting of Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council's Planning Committee. I propose to take the agenda as printed, so we'll begin with item 1, which is apologies. Are there any apologies this evening? In that case, I'll progress to item 2 on our agenda, which is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to make such a declaration this evening?
Chair.
Councillor Williams? You're muted, Councillor Williams. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Won't. Can you hear me now?
I can indeed.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On number 7, I worked with Sophie when she was the head of the community safety in the Borough Council, and I just feel uneasy that I will be taking part in the planning application. So I'd just like to declare that interest, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor. Any further declarations of interest this evening? Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest in item 5. I'm a non-executive director of the Aspire board, so I shan't be taking part in the debate or the voting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any further declarations of interest? I see none, so I shall progress to item 3 of our agenda. The minutes of previous meetings, which are there for you. Are members content that those are a correct record? Or does any member wish to make or propose an amendment at this point? Again, I see no sign that any member wishes to do that, so I shall take those as a correct record. And I will therefore progress to item 4 of our agenda this evening, the application for major development, Muckleston Road, Loggerheads. You can see the recommendation in front of us. Please be aware that we should be addressing the item specifically in front of us, not the general notion of development here. And I'll just ask our officer before I open this for debate whether there are any comments that should be made beforehand.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a short presentation of this item, and there is the supplementary update, which revises the recommendations on the 2 applications under consideration for this item. But essentially, it is a recommendation still of refusal for the smaller site to the west of the site, but not for the larger area of land. And I can explain those in the presentation. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Fleet, if you go ahead with the presentation now, we don't have any speakers. That will be the correct order to go in.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the presentation. As I say, there are 2 parcels of land now off Muckleston Road. So for those who know or not so familiar with Loggerheads, the main road runs along here, the Market Drayton Road, with the roundabouts roughly over here, Muckleston Road up to the top. Historically, this site had received a single outline consent that wrapped around the sewerage works, but over time there's been a series of reserved matters applications, amended full applications, and the 2 sites have become separated as 2 distinct consents in their own right. So we have the larger parcel of land, the phase 1 area down here, which is where the bulk of the residential development is delivered, and it has a connection back onto the Muckleston Road at the top, which then allows pedestrian access down into the centre of the village. The smaller parcel of land up there on the top northern side is also accessed via the road, and I'll come to the details of what the application is in that one. But between the 2 is an area of woodland and a stream, and you can see on this plan a sort of meandering footpath network connecting them. This is the plan currently under consideration for the area of the north, which actually has an access, a highway access onto Muckleston Road opposite Folly View. And it actually has this sort of footpath link where pedestrians can walk out the back of the site, wind their way through, over a bridge and down through the other site and out into the sort of larger part of the village. It also has a bit of an access on the roadside that cuts through. It differs from the last approval, which is this plan, whereby that scheme also had a footpath link, but it didn't go across the land. But this one had a road link where pedestrians could then walk along the sort of new pavement all the way down into the sort of heart of the village. We were more in line with this scheme because particularly on nights such as this, when it's dark, it's wet, this provides a safe means of access for children who might be coming back from the shops or the schools or anything else to actually safely walk on a lit piece of pavement and actually get to these last few houses as part of the development. This scheme, which doesn't have the pavement, would necessitate children crossing across the pavements, going across Muckleston Road, picking up on that northern side, crossing over again on this sort of staggered bit with Folly View, or walking through the woods over the bridge and trying to get home that way. So for that reason, we're sort of recommending refusal of the application at the moment for the smaller parcel of land. This is the footbridge for information. And these are the photographs. You can see how the footpath at the moment peters out just beyond the sort of larger site, which is onto the left here. Folly View is over to that direction. So pedestrians would either be expected to behave properly, walk along the road, look left and right, cross over, walk up the road, look left and right, cross back over into the development. As a parent of children myself, I know the reality of the world isn't quite so simple, and people don't always just walk and cross. We anticipate that there will be a significant number of foot trips by foot over the year, where people will try and walk along the curbside here. And given the speed of traffic and the volume of traffic on this road, we do not feel it's a safe measure. So that's the concern. The development is underway and near complete effectively, and there is a bit of a footpath link, but you can see here how it's a footpath to nowhere effectively. We don't sort of see that as an acceptable solution, and the recommendations in the supplemental paper are there for you. Just as confirm, because these applications historically had Section 106 agreements, then there would be a need to vary the Section 106 on the larger site to ensure that the obligations that were originally secured are carried through to a new permission as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fleet. Could I ask you to stop sharing your screen so that people are visible? Thank you very much. So, colleagues, you've heard the officer's presentation, and I now open the item for debate. Again, it would be useful, as Councillor Northcott has done, to raise your hand in the electrical fashion. So, Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sean, for the presentation. Some members will remember this because it's been through planning permission on this committee via its various guises over the past 18 months or so, and there was numerous consultations with the village, with the parishioners, and also the parish council, myself, the planning team, along the way to bring this this development on. Now that it's developed to a rapid rate, and there's the first phase on the smaller phase is virtually built out now, and people living in there. This comes to planning committee, and I find it quite incredible that the developers have decided that they wish to go against the original plans at this late stage, and I'm quite disappointed really after the negotiations that they've had with the villagers and the expectations that there was going to be a footpath installed here. I don't think it's acceptable. I agree with your officers in terms of this report. It's not acceptable not to have that there. It's quite a fast road that goes all the way through to Muckleston. People shortcut it. To have no pavement here would be exposing people to take unnecessary risk trying to cross the road. So I'll be wholly 100% behind supporting the recommendation, and I wish to move that we accept the recommendation in its entirety, Part A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any further members wish to comment on this item? Councillor Moffat.
Just to completely support Councillor Northcott's comments, and thank you, Sean, for the presentation. We need to make sure that when we're developing these areas that it's fit for purpose for families, etc. So I'd be happy to second Councillor Northcott's proposal to accept the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any further members who wish to contribute? In that case, I'm going to proceed to a vote. Seen the recommendation, remember it's the supplementary recommendation that we're looking at this point. And I'll now ask members one by one whether they're in favour of those recommendations. So, Councillor Reddish.
To refuse the application in favour of the recommendations.
Councillor Mrs Williams. I can't hear you, Councillor, you're muted. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I can't. It won't unmute.
There we are, it's done.
Oh, right. I go with the recommendation, Chairs.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williams.
The recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Northcott.
Good recommendation to refuse, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Burgess.
Go with the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Jones.
In favour of the recommendations, Chair.
Councillor Cooper.
In favour of the recommendation.
Councillor Maxfield. You'll have to unmute yourself, Councillor. Oh, there we are.
Favour of the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Moffat.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Owen. Councillor Owen, can you hear me?
I can, sorry, Chair. I'm in favour of the recommendation.
Thank you very much. I think in that case that clearly passes. I believe it passes unanimously. Let us progress to our next item, which is the land off Dean's Lane, Red Street. And again, I'll ask our officer if we have anything that needs to be reported before we have our debate.
There's nothing further to report, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In that case, I invite comment from members.
Move the recommendation.
Are there any further comments? I see none electronically. I can't see anyone indicating on the screen in front of me. In which case, again, I'll proceed to a vote. So, Councillor Reddish.
As recommendation.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Go with the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
With the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Burgess.
Go with the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Jones.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Cooper.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Maxfield.
In favour of the recommendation, thank you.
Councillor Moffat.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
And Councillor Northcote, I believe you indicated you didn't wish to participate in this vote. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Once again, I think that clearly passes, and I think it passes unanimously. So we can proceed to our next item. Again, application for major development. This is Thorn Precast on Apedale Road. And once again, I'll ask our officers if there's anything we need to know before we proceed to a debate.
No, Chair, there's nothing further to report. The recommendation is as printed in the main agenda report.
Thank you very much. Again, I ask whether members have anything they wish to contribute at this juncture. And again, I see no one indicating on the screen, and there's no one raised their hand electronically, so I'm going to proceed to a vote on the recommendation. Councillor Reddish.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Recommendation.
Go with the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Northcott.
In favour of the recommendation to permit.
Councillor Burgess.
Yes, permit.
Councillor Jones.
In favour of the recommendations.
Councillor Cooper.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Maxfield.
In favour of the recommendation.
Councillor Moffat.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
In favour of the recommendation, Chair.
Once again, then, colleagues, that item clearly passes, and we can progress to item 7 on our agenda. Now, item 7, we have two public speakers. What we should do before they address us is ask again our officer whether there's any further information that we all need to know before we proceed with our debate.
Thank you, Chair. There's nothing further to report, but following the two speakers, if members wish to see the previous plans that were approved and the plans now proposed, or the works to regularise the works that are being carried out, and photographs, then they can be displayed if necessary. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Bromley. So that brings us, I think, to our public speakers. And before I ask them to address the committee, I'll just go through the speaking protocol to make sure everyone is clear what's going to happen. So the protocol says that the order in which our speakers will come is first the ward councillor, Councillor Gary White, followed by the applicant, Ms Thorley. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the committee. After 4 of those 5 minutes have elapsed, they will be given a warning by our clerk to make sure that they don't miss any crucial points as they see to sum up in that last minute. When those 5 minutes are elapsed, that is the sum total of their contribution to our proceedings this evening. So on those terms, I first invite Councillor Gary White to address the meeting. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just check that you can hear me okay?
I can indeed.
Thank you. I'll just make a short statement on this, Chair. So, members of the Planning Committee, I'm objecting to this application for a number of reasons, which I will take you through. Firstly, this application seeks to regularise, or in other words, correct non-adherences to the original application on no other than 6 matters. The applicant has deviated from the approved applications on all these matters and is now expecting to have them authorised retrospectively. Please remember, members, that this is in the Greenbelt and is already a large development within the Greenbelt. In his report, your officer states that 2 items are in fact inappropriate development within the Greenbelt, namely the construction of a large pergola and the construction of a large concrete plinth measuring 15.9 metres by 5.3 metres. He also goes on to state that the benefits, as explained, outweigh the harm. I do not accept this. I would like to reference condition 6, which is the hard standing plinth. This occupies a surface area of 84 square metres, substantial in nature. It is approximately an additional third of the size of the stable block that has been built. Overall, this site has a history of planning applications, and I find it inappropriate that such a retrospective application should be recommended for approval. And in my view, it makes a mockery of the planning system. I urge you to refuse it in total, but if you are not so minded, at the very least, to refuse condition 6 for the large, hard-standing plinth. That's my statement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'll now invite Ms Thorley to address the committee on the same terms. So if we have Ms Thorley with us, begin when you wish.
I'll just need to check, Chair, because I've got 2 unidentified applicants, so I'll allow them both to talk to see if...
Okay, so if we just pause to let that happen.
Hello, is this Sophie Thorley, please?
MD and the black screen have both got muted microphones, so if they are trying to identify themselves, we can't hear them.
Yeah, I'm asking them to, I'm asking MD to unmute. The other person it could have been has dropped out, so if it isn't MD, then Sophie's not with us.
I think there's something a bit strange going on, because I'm noticing that people who are muted, we can hear speak, and vice versa. I mean, I've tried to mute myself and it just won't do it. So I'm just wondering if Sophie is trying to unmute and it's not happening, because I had that difficulty at the beginning.
You're now unmuted, Councillor. I can see you on my side screen in that way.
Yes, but I tried to mute myself and it wouldn't do it.
Okay.
And the reverse has happened. And I noticed as we've been speaking, some people are muted, but we've been able to hear them.
Well, I think all we can do is wait for another minute or so at the maximum, and then we will simply have to proceed with the debate. I can see no way around that, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I could just ask our clerk to try once again to see if we can gain contact.
Yeah, I'm trying to ask to unmute the chair.
So again, given that this is in the public arena at the moment, we're on YouTube. If Ms Thorley is there, please could you unmute your microphone, because we're not going to be able to hear you if you remain muted. Nor, I'm afraid, can I, in the interest of equity, allow a contribution after the debate has begun. I think that would leave Councillor White in an iniquitous position. So we have to do it now, or we can't do it.
No, I'm not getting any response, Chair.
In that case, I'm afraid we're going to have to proceed with the debate. Now, given that 2 things have been highlighted in particular, what I want to do is ask our officer to show us those previous plans and the photographs, particularly of the concrete plinth and the pergola, so that committee members know what we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. I'll just share my screen now. Are members able to see the plan?
Yes, I can see it, certainly.
Yeah, okay. So this was the previous application that was permitted. We've got the large menage horse exercise area to the left there where the cursor is, and then adjacent to that is the stable building that was approved with 3 number stables where the cursor is here. A small kitchenette area, a storeroom, and a horse wash area. And you'll note that that was open fronted. We've also got some elevations There's the view A, where the open fronted horse wash area was, and then view B with the free stables, and then the little kitchenette and store in that corner there. So obviously the owner, the applicant, has carried out the developments, and they have not constructed the building in accordance with these plans. So now I'll seek to I'll stop sharing that and seek to show you the plans that are now proposed. Okay, so this is the plan that has been submitted as part of this application, which seeks to vary those conditions highlighted in the main agenda report. Again, just as reference, you've got the large menage area to the left where my cursor is now, and the stable building down here. The plans also show the large pergola, and I've got photographs that I'll show shortly. It's probably best to show the pergola on this floor plan here. You've got the three stable buildings, which were on the approved plan. You've got the small kitchenette area and the feed storeroom, and then the horse wash box, which is being constructed so it's enclosed rather than open fronted now. There are other minor works in terms of an introduction of a window on the side elevation, which previously wasn't proposed, and a couple of other windows that were proposed, but they're in a slightly different location. So now I'll proceed to show you some photographs of the development that's being carried out. So this is the stable building that's been erected. That's the elevation with the three stables that were always proposed. The horse wash box area here shows it being used as a stable, I believe, and then the kitchenette, the area is in the corner. I'll move back to the previous photo, which shows the large pergola that hasn't got planning permission. The main agenda report states that the officers conclude that is operational development and development that requires planning permission, and that's why we've one of the reasons why we sought this application is to regularise that development.
Could I just ask, Mr. Bromley, what's beneath that pergola at the moment? There looks like there are things underneath it. I mean, is that correct?
It is, yeah. It seems to be used as just a general storage area. I think there's maybe a chicken coop and chickens in there as well. But the site as a whole really is, whether you would say a typical equine stable yard area with paraphernalia and as shown on that photo, pallets and all sorts of equine and agricultural paraphernalia. That photo, funnily enough, shows the concrete store that's been erected, manure store. Officers of consultation with the Environmental Health Division have agreed to the use of that area as a manure store, as was required by one of the conditions. But also there's the timber building which is on skids, which again hasn't got planning permission, and they're all sitting on the large complex at the rear of the stable building that Councillor White referred to and is referred to in the agenda report. I've got a couple more photos. That's from that shows again a side elevation or rear with the plinth to the left. Again, that's at the rear of the plinth. That's from within the site looking towards the manure store. But there's the large plinth without anything on it and without the manure store there. So it is a large concrete plinth. There's the menage. So this is a view from Keel Road, looking towards the drive down. Not a particularly great photo. I apologise for that. And then another photo again from Keel Road, just showing the context of the site. You've got the recently converted barn building with the stable to the side, and the menage is over here. The plinth is on the rear of the stable building here, so it's not readily viewable from any main vantage point to a certain extent. But as I set out in the agenda report, it is a large concrete plinth, and officers consider it to be inappropriate development, but we feel as though on balance it's acceptable and special circumstances outweigh that limiting harm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bromley. Could I ask, yes, that's fine.
Sorry.
Before we proceed, could I just ask you to clarify one point, which in the report, I believe it says that the plinth is on an area which has been built up, so that there's been a change in the topography at that point. Could you just take us through that, please?
Yes, it'd probably be helpful if I shared the photo again. I've got one particular photo which I think speaks volumes really and demonstrates it quite well. So this shows the concrete plinth that's been constructed, and the land drops away down here. Now, obviously, it's been a couple of years since I visited the site, so I can't definitely say that the land has been built up, but it's likely that the land has been built up because of the topography and the way that it slopes down, so that it becomes a flat area. How much it's being built up by, I'm not 100% certain, but it would appear to me that it has been built up.
Thanks very much. Right, in that case, I now open the item for comment from members. I know, was that just moving papers, Councillor Reddish, or did you wish to contribute?
No, I was just refreshing some things in the reports.
Okay.
I am listening, it's all right.
No, it's just I don't want to cut anyone out of the debate, and you seem to move across the screen in a significant fashion, that's all.
No, it's all right.
Councillor Jones, though, has raised his hand. So, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I have a number of thank you very much to Councillor White for speaking on this matter. I know it sits within his ward, but it's just next to the division to the start of my county division, and I am aware of this site living locally in Keel. I have to say I agree with Councillor White's reservations on this application. Part of our role is to be custodians of the green belt, and in that role, one which I take very seriously, we judge applications on within the green belt on the case of harm that they may cause, but we also expect applicants to adhere to the requirements that we set out when planning permission is granted. And I see throughout this report quite a lot of work that's been done by our officers to looking at the deviation from the original planning and measuring the effect of harm on the green belt from that. But I can't get past the initial point of more than 6 breaches of the original planning in this report. Significant numbers of changes to an original application, and we as members of this committee in taking our role seriously to protect the green belt should also be ensuring that applicants adhere to those conditions. I have seen conditions, applications come back for retrospective planning come through this committee for other areas within the borough where it has breached the original planning consent. And we have refused that retrospective planning on those cases. But specifically, I think having looked at the photos and thank the officer for taking us through those photos, we're not talking about a minor change, the original plans. We're talking about the installation of, I'm not sure I would call that a pagoda. I think I would call that a significant extension. And the installation of a very large concrete plinth, the erection of additional buildings on top of that plinth. And I'm not sure whether the officer can come back whether permission would be needed for the erection of those additional buildings or not, or whether it would be just the plinth. And I do feel that both of those additions do cause significant harm to the green belt and the amenity of the area. In particular, driving past that road, you note the addition of that extended pagoda on the side of the building. You can actually see that from the road as passing through. And the addition of the plinth at the back is quite a large structural change to that. So I wonder if potentially for my benefit, because I'm minded to move for refusal, if the officer could outline why those two additions were viewed not to have caused significant harm.
Yes, if the officer would address that now, and then I'll go to Councillor Northcott.
So the timber building that the applicant suggests is on skids and doesn't require planning permission because it's a movable structure. Whether that requires planning permission or not, it's unlikely that it does if it's going to be moved about and be used for agricultural purposes, i.e. the keeping of livestock, as they've suggested. So I would say that that element is unlikely to require planning permission. From legal background suggests that those types of structures, movable structures, do not require planning permission. But even if it was concluded that it did require planning permission, then I think that that type of structure in the rural area, as long as it's used for housing goats or a field shelter, then I would suggest that is appropriate development in the green belt. The pergola, as a set out in the main agenda report, we've said that is operational development that requires planning permission, and officers have obviously concluded that yes, it's an inappropriate development, but it's not harmful to the openness of the green belt. The concrete plinth, again, we've concluded that is inappropriate development in the green belt, and we acknowledge that it's of a size that is going to result in some harm. But we officers have concluded that there are special circumstances that outweigh that, what we consider to be negligible harm, and that reason is set out in the main agenda report. One point that I would make is, obviously with all breaches of planning control, it's not necessarily the point that they've carried out the works without planning permission. It's whether the works that they have carried out are unacceptable or not, i.e. is it expedient to take enforcement action. Obviously, if we were to refuse this planning application or elements of the development proposed, then we would the next step would obviously to be decide whether it's expedient to take action, and by virtue of obviously refusing the application, we would be looking to progress enforcement action about those particular matters that we think are unacceptable in this location. So that's another point that members need to be mindful of. It shouldn't be the fact that the works are being carried out without planning permission. Obviously, that's not something that we support, but it's whether the works that have been carried out are unacceptable, and we've got a good policy background to refuse the application. Because obviously, if we did go to appeal, then we'd need to obviously demonstrate that the development is contrary to policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Romney. Could I just say, Councillor Jones raises what this wooden structure is called, and just to clarify my own mind, when I see the word pergola, I tend to think of a structure which does not have a continuous roof, that there's a sort of beams across with maybe some plants and what have you, but that it's open to the air as such. Is this a structure of this sort, or does it have a continuous roof?
No, it's as you described, and it does form part of the landscaping scheme, the newly proposed landscaping scheme that includes the pergola, and so in time it will have planting around it. Okay,
thank you very much. Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got great sympathy with Councillor Jones's point. He makes very valid ones. I'm not really happy with the way that retrospective planning permission has been sought this way. If it was you or I that had a planning permission, we neglected by 5 or 6 times on major things to do with a planning application, we would expect a fairly swift action against us. Now, there's a number of things that concerns me about this site. I'll take the concrete plinth with the shed at the back. If this was a recognised farming business or a business that tended to specialise in certain things in the green belt, there will be usually a planning permission sought for a particular thing. For example, we saw a chicken shed just recently in the rural area for that particular business. As there's been no plans for this, we haven't seen how it's been constructed or how it will be used in terms of watercourse or what sort of excavation work has been done. We've got no idea how that's going to support anything else that's built on there. I'm inclined not to agree to the condition 6 of the concrete plinth. That's clearly something that's pushed it to the limit as far as I'm concerned. The pergola, that is very big, very huge, and ordinarily, if I had one at the back of my house, if I built one that size, I would expect to have planning permission for it. This clearly hasn't been the case. They've really, gone a bit too far on this, not even sort of halfway house and trying to get planning permission further down the line to see if this is possible. They've just gone ahead and done it. So it doesn't show much regard actually to the planning permissions that have been set upon this, or regard for the fact it's in the green belt. And I don't agree with the officer's view about special circumstances of the concrete plinth. I think that's way and far beyond what was expected, and I think we would expect as a planning committee to have a suitable planning application for something of this nature in the green belt that would demonstrate a need in this position as a special circumstance, not to just have a concrete plinth to put on it what you will. I don't find that acceptable in the green belt at all. We've got a mind to protect it wherever we can and make sure whether special circumstances do exist, that can be evidence. I can't see any evidence here that would support that. So reluctantly, I would be swayed perhaps to allow the other things to go, with the exception of the pergola and the hard standing. So I'll reverse my decision at the moment and let the debate run a bit further. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I'm mindful that our decision-making process is something that would be looked into in the event that there is an appeal. The fact that the application is retrospective isn't material, so the intentions of the applicant, I don't think, are something that we can take into account. I think the correct test, if you will, is that were these additional features present at the time of the first application, which was granted, would we then have approved the application? And I'm not sure that we would have done, particularly in respect of the 2 items that Councillor Northcott mentioned, the pergola structure and the concrete plinth. Our officers have acknowledged, and our report acknowledges, that all of this is inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, and therefore it is necessary to justify very special circumstances in order to approve them. The application as it came before us, this committee determined that very special circumstances did exist. I'm not sure the committee would have done so if this large concrete hardstanding had formed part of the original application. And for that reason, I would suggest that we refuse the application that's in front of us. I am open to the suggestion that Councillor Northcott has made, because while I understand that there's been an objection made on the basis of the new window in the southeast elevation of overlooking, I'm not sure that I would mind that window existing. I'm not sure that I would object to some of the other features of this application, but the two items that I would object to are the pergola and the large concrete plinth, and therefore I would be prepared to move, if Councillor Northcott was prepared to join me in refusing those two and allowing the others. Before we do that, can I ask, Chair, is it in order for us to approve some of these and to reject the rest, or do we have to reject the entire application?
Now, you anticipate my question to the officers, Councillor, and I think that's very pertinent indeed. So if I could just ask, if committee members are so minded, can they refuse permission for the pergola and the concrete plinth but leave the rest of the items, or is it something that's an all or nothing application, so to speak?
Thank you, Chair. If members are minded to refuse the application, then obviously a reason for refusal needs to be agreed at tonight's meeting. And I would suggest, from what Councillor Holland has said and Councillor Northcote, is that the application as a whole would need to be refused, but it would be that the pergola and the concrete plinth represent inappropriate development, and there are no very special circumstances. So to confirm that the whole application would have to be refused, but you could specify those two particular matters as being the what you're refusing the application on, basically. And if the applicant wanted to resubmit an application for those other matters, then she could do as part of a separate planning application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bromley. So that's in Councillor Holland and Councillor Northcott's court in a way. What I think I should draw members' attention to, as ever, is that obviously if we are, or if members are unhappy with this application, we need to list all the reasons we are unhappy with it now. We can't alter things later on. What I hear from the debate is that those two items are where members' concerns lie, but if members have other concerns, now would be the time to voice them.
I mean, is it those special circumstances? Is that a condition? Because I, for one, am certainly not convinced that there are special circumstances for any of this development. So I think I would perhaps want to strengthen it by saying that we put in about the pergola, about the plinth, and the fact that there's no special circumstances to go into the Greenbelt.
Mr. Fleet, I think.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think following on from Nick Bromley's comments, he's covered the key issues well there. So it is the fact that if this is refused, we are sort of heading to an appeal in all likelihood, given that the structures are there and the applicants would probably want to retain them. So we are looking at those key issues, and as Councillor Reddish says, it is those very special circumstances. Do they outweigh the retention? And in debating that and coming to a decision, that will be a key thing to sort of support any appeal action that we end up in. And as Councillor Holland, as you've said, it is that sort of key question. Would we have approved it if it came before us in the first instance? I think across all of the sort of comments I've been hearing tonight from the members, there's some very sort of key pertinent facts, but it is that sort of key debate between very special circumstances. What merits is there? What justification is there? And there are some. The the National Planning Policy Framework does support rural diversification and rural development and recognises the needs for those, but as also, as Councillor Northcott has said, where's the evidence for that? Where's the justification? And I think that's sort of the pivot of this, is that in a better argued case, if the justification had been there, I could have seen that being easier to sort of present to you. As officers, we've been closer to this application. We've seen some of that come forward. But as sort of seeing it with the report and what evidence is there, it's one that really, if that reason for refusal comes through, makes it clear that that evidence is not sufficient to outweigh the greenbelt harm. So that's what we'd sort of be looking for in any appeal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fleet. So essentially what we have is, if members feel unhappy about parts of this development, and again, I think Councillor Holland has put his finger on this, were this to be an initial development, would we be happy with what we see now? And do we feel that those very special circumstances would obtain against intrusion into the greenbelt? That's the sort of trade-off I think that we have. And now I'll ask Councillor Holland and Councillor Northcott, who talked about this, maybe Councillor Jones, if any of them wish to put forward a proposition formulated around those terms.
I would defer to my more experienced planning colleagues in Councillor Holland and Councillor Northcott if they are formulating.
Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support a recommendation to refuse based on those two elements that I and Councillor Holland have conveyed to the Planning Committee tonight. I think that's, for me, the evidence isn't there to support that special circumstance in those two areas, and I would recommend refusal on those grounds. Thank you.
Okay, are you happy to go with that, Councillor Holland, and then we'll proceed to a vote?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to second on that basis. I think we've been very clear about the two items among all of this that we are refusing, that we're comfortable or satisfied. The harm outweighs the benefit. That concrete standing is materially much larger than what was approved. It is inappropriate development of the greenbelt. And it is of such a size and extent that if it had been present in the first application, we would not have said that very special circumstances justify its inclusion in the application. And the other item, the structure, the pergola or chicken coop, it is visible from the road and there is an impact on visual amenity. But again, it's an additional structure that is inappropriate development in the greenbelt, and we do not believe that very special circumstances exist to justify its inclusion.
Okay, can I, our officers have heard what has just been said. Can I leave, I'll go for a vote on that in a moment. If that vote succeeds, which it may not, of course, but if it does, could our officers formulate the correct wording of such an objection?
Yes, I think we're quite clear on what the reason for refusal would look like. So I'm satisfied that we've got what Councillor Holland has expressed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bromley. So I will try and formulate that now. And again, if the proposer and seconder or our officers correct me if they think I'm saying something incorrect, and then we will go for a vote. So what has been proposed is that we refuse this application on the grounds that there aren't very special circumstances which would, in our view, overrule the intrusion into the greenbelt. And we particularly think that as regards the pergola structure and the concrete plinth. So I'm now going to proceed to a vote on that. So this will be, if you vote for this, you are voting for refusal. Let's make that very clear. So Councillor Reddish, are you for that
I'm
proposal.
I'm voting for refusals on the outline of what you've just said. And
Thank you
obviously-
very much, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Voting for refusal, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
He's declared an interest, Chair.
Declared an interest.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I apologise.
Thank you.
Councillor Burgess.
Voting for refusal.
Councillor Jones.
For refusal.
Councillor Cooper.
For refusal.
Councillor Maxfield.
For refusal.
Councillor Moffat.
Vote to refuse, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Refuse.
Councillor Owen. Councillor Owen, are you still with us?
Sorry, I was muted, Chair. I vote for refuse.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That, I think, is a unanimous vote in favour of refusal. So at that point, I think we can progress to our next item, which is the former Pike and Son unit in Lancaster buildings. There's a supplementary report on this, and again, I'll just ask our officer if there's any further information that we need this evening.
No, there isn't, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fleet. I therefore open the item to debate for members. You see the recommendation before you.
Just clarification that it doesn't affect the exterior of the building at all. That all the work is internal, and so from the outside it's not going to look any different at all.
My understanding is that correct. That is correct, but let's ask our officers, Councillor.
Yeah.
There is some very minor alterations. I've got a short presentation I can sort of quickly go through if that helps.
Once again, if you would, Mr. Fleet, I think that would be helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the building, as you probably all know, on the sort of southern side.
I can't see. You're not sharing your screen, I'm afraid, Mr. Fleet. I can only see members at the moment.
Yes.
There we are. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is the building. You probably all know it very well. It's on the southern side there near Boots. Just to confirm its location. It's this unit in the middle. And this is the actual building as it currently is. And the alterations, these are the internal alterations on the ground floor. Just putting in some desks in there for the teaching facilities and then staff facilities behind as well. And these are the alterations on the front. So if I just zoom in a little bit. So they're taking out some of the vents, putting in new glass on there. There'll be a new sign subject to a separate advertisement application later on, if approved. They're just covering up some of the signage and the naming of the premises. So that'll be covered. A new door goes in. And then they're just tidying up some of the others with a new paving, taking out the alarm if they can, but that's obviously firemen's. They've got to check with the fire service on that. So nothing too substantial, but there are sort of slight updating of the front of the building.
Can I just ask, Mr. Fleet, stainless steel, I think you said stainless steel plate, does that run across the frontage, or is it just a small plate in front of another plate?
It's in front of the existing Pines name, so it cuts across on these sections here.
Okay.
Takes away the company name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Again, Councillor Holland, I think wished to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the recommendation as printed. The Conservation Advisory Working Party has considered this application, and as guardians of our built heritage, including the conservation area in the town centre, I trust their judgment, and I'm willing to vote in favour of the recommendation.
Councillor Norton.
Thank you, Chair. I second that proposal that we move in favour of the recommendations this will provide the town with a much needed hub. And I think if the consultees have been happy with this and have a chance to feed into this the planning application, I think we should, like Councillor Holland says, we should trust officers on this, and I'll second that.
I take it, Councillor Reddish, you were about to say the same sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so in that case, I can see, unless Councillor Burgess wishes to speak, but I think she was just switching her mic on.
Yes.
So I'm going to proceed to a vote. You see the recommendation in front of you. Councillor Reddish.
Permit as recommendation.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Northcott.
Permit.
Councillor Burgess.
Permit.
Councillor Jones.
Permit.
Councillor Cooper.
Permit.
Councillor Maxfield.
Permit.
Councillor Moffat.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
Permit, Chair.
That, I think, then passes unanimously, and we can pass to our next item, which is item 9, I believe. Unless I got myself lost. No, item 9, 20 High Street, Wood Lane. And again, I'll just ask our officer if there's anything we need to know before we proceed to a vote.
No, they're just the supplementary with the comments from Environmental Health, Chair, requiring the environmental management plan for controlling the works.
Thank you, Mr. Fleet. Any comments from members?
Like to move the recommendation as in the supplementary.
Again, I see no further members wishing to comment, so I'm going to proceed to a vote. So we'll vote on the recommendation as in the supplementary paper. Councillor Reddish.
Permit.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Northcott.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Burgess.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Jones.
Permit.
Councillor Cooper.
Permit.
Councillor Maxfield.
Permit.
Councillor Moffat.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
Permit.
Once again, that passes, I think, unanimously, and we'll move to item 10, which has, again, a supplementary report, the Infant Welfare Centre in Cleag, Nutton Lane, Nutton. Before we move on, there is a supplementary, but I'll just ask our officers if there's any further information that we require before we proceed to debate and vote.
No, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, I open this for comment from members. I see no indication that anyone wishes to speak, and therefore I'm going to proceed to the vote on the recommendation as printed. So, Councillor Reddish.
Permit as recommendation printed.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
As recommended, permit.
Councillor Northcott.
As recommended, Chair.
Councillor Burgess.
As recommended, Chair.
Councillor Jones.
Permit.
Councillor Cooper.
Permit.
Councillor Maxfield.
Permit as recommended, Chair.
Councillor Moffat.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
As recommended, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
Permit.
Once again, that passes, I think, NEMCON, and we can move on to item 11, 1 Copper Close Kidsgrove. And again, I'll just ask our officers if there's any further information on this item.
Nothing in favour to report, Chair.
Thank you. In that case, I look for comment from members.
Move the recommendation.
I see none apart from Councillor Reddish, so I'm going to proceed to a vote again. So, Councillor Reddish.
Permit.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Permit.
Councillor Williams.
Permit.
Councillor Northcott.
Permit.
Councillor Burgess.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Jones.
Permit.
Councillor Cooper.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Maxfield.
Permit.
Councillor Moffat.
Permit, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Permit.
Councillor Owen. And that again, I think, passes unanimously, and we can progress to our next group of items. Now, these items are all appeal items, the next four. What I propose to do, given that these are for information, is to take them en bloc. But I will now invite either officers, if they feel that there's anything here that's something which we should consider in general rather than the particular aspects of these cases, or members to comment on any of these four items. So are there any comments that anyone wish to make on these four appeal decisions? I see no inclination to comment on them, so I'm going to, because they are information items, I'm going to take those as read, and I trust that we've all banked what he said there. That brings us to item 16, an application for financial assistance, Button Grange. There is a supplementary on this item, and again, I invite comment from members. We see the sum of money that's being proposed. Councillor Northcott, I beg your pardon, I'd scrolled to the wrong place.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know this property very, very well. I'm happy to propose that we approve this. Thank you.
Any other member wish to comment before we proceed to a vote? In that case, I will proceed to a vote. Councillor Reddish.
Move the recommendation to give the grant.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Move the recommendation to give the grant, Chair.
Councillor Williams.
Agree with the grant.
Councillor Northcott.
Agree with the grant.
Councillor Burgess.
Yes, agree with the grant.
Councillor Jones.
For the proposal.
Councillor Cooper.
Agree with the grant, Chair.
Councillor Maxfield.
Agree with the grant.
Councillor Moffat.
Approve the grant, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Approve, Chair.
Councillor Owen.
In favour.
Therefore, that grant is approved, and we can progress to item 17, again with a supplementary, very similar sort of item. Once again, application for financial assistance, this time 1 Gladstone Villas, Victoria Road in Newcastle itself. And again, I don't think there's any further information to be had, but I'll just check with our officers.
Yeah, nothing in favour, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bromley. Does any member wish to comment on this before we proceed to a vote?
Move it, Chair.
In that case, let's proceed to that vote. Councillor Reddish.
Approve the grant.
Councillor Mrs Williams.
Approve the grant.
Councillor Williams.
Approve the grant.
Councillor Northcott.
Approve.
Councillor Burgess.
Yes, approve.
Councillor Jones.
Approve.
Councillor Cooper.
Approve.
Councillor Maxfield.
Approve.
Councillor Moffat.
Approve, Chair.
Councillor Holland.
Approve.
Councillor Owen.
In favour.
That again, I think, passes NEMCON. That brings us to item 18, our quarterly report on extensions to S106 agreements. You see the report. Again, I'll just ask our officer whether he wishes to speak to it.
No, I don't, Chair. There was a supplementary report published earlier today. It was quite late on, so I don't know whether members had an opportunity to to view that very short supplementary. But yeah, it's all set out in the report.
Given that I didn't, Mr. Bromley, could you just bring me up to speed on that, please, and tell me what it said?
I can, yeah. Just bear with me. So since the preparation of the main agenda report, your officer, the head of planning, has agreed that the period of time within which the obligations can be entered into have been extended for item 2 in the main agenda report, which is the development at Morstan House, and item 3, former Newcastle Baptist Church. That time frame has been extended to the 15th of December due to significant progress being made in the last few days, and those obligations should be secured in the very near future, and hopefully by or before the 15th of December. And then your officer has also agreed an extension to the period for the item 5 within the main agenda report, 1 London Road. There has been delays on behalf of the council in securing that obligation, so your officer has agreed an extension to the 8th of January owing to the delays on behalf of the council and the Christmas and New Year break. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does any member wish to comment on the report that they've seen? In that case, I'll look at the screen in this regard. Are members content that we accept that report?
Yes.
I see general nodding of heads, so let's progress to item 19, another report, the mid-year development management performance report. Again, there's a supplementary, and I would like to thank the officers for setting this out in, I think, a very readable fashion. I thought it was a very clear report to see where we are. Does any member wish to comment on this report? Councillor Holland.
Some very good statistics on those bar charts commencing at the bottom of page 95. I think 100% meeting our local performance indicators is a fantastic result, and a great tribute to the hard work of the officers in planning.
Any further comment from members? Councillor Northcott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish to extend my thanks and our thanks to Head of Planning and his team for putting a magnificent effort across the board, working hard on this with some significant challenges that have been placed upon from COVID, etc. during this time. They maintained a good staff attendance as well. I'm really pleased with this. It's a great direction for the council to be going in. Obviously, it's something to live up to in years to come. But it's pleasant to be in this sort of area rather than the bottom percentile of planning authorities. And to this end, I think we should owe our thanks to the team. They've done a magnificent effort, and I hope that the Head of Planning passes on my thanks for a sterling effort across the board. Thank you.
Any further comment from members? In that case, I'd just like to re-echo what I've just heard. I think we've obviously been in very difficult circumstances recently, and it's clear that our planning team has risen to the occasion, more than risen to the occasion, and I think we all owe a vote of thanks to them for that. Are members content that we receive this report?
Yes, Chair.
That brings us to item 20, which is the usual closing gambit, to consider any business which is urgent within the relevant section of the relevant act. I know of none. I look to our officers in case they know of some. And I see a shaking of heads. So at that point, I can call this meeting to a close. Before we go away, it's a little bit early, but I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas, as we won't be meeting again before Christmas. So do enjoy the festive season. It might be a little bit circumscribed, but enjoy it as much as you can.
Same to you, Chair.
Thank you,
Bye,
Chair.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.